The Toyota HiLux is the toughest truck this company has ever built. And now, for the first time in 40 years, it runs on nothing but electricity. This is the 2026 HiLux BEV in its top SR5 trim. It has just gone on sale in Australia as the quietest revolution the nameplate has ever attempted. This is the truck that crossed deserts, outlasted war zones, and survived things no normal vehicle walks away from. That reputation is the whole reason this version matters. Because Toyota did not build an electric HiLux to chase records, it built it to break as little as possible. So here is what this video is really about. On paper, an electric HiLux should be the boldest thing Toyota makes all year. In reality, it might be the most careful vehicle in the entire showroom. And the handful of numbers behind that decision tell you, with almost uncomfortable clarity, exactly who this truck is for and exactly who it is not. Look at it head on, and the restraint is already there. The BEV wears the same blunt, upright grille as the diesel HiLux, with Toyota spelled out in block capitals across the nose, above a set of slim LED headlights that fold back into the wings. There is no glowing light bar, no spaceship trickery, nothing that shouts about the battery underneath. That is a choice. Toyota wanted this to read as a HiLux first and an electric vehicle second, so a tradie pulling onto a job site never feels like they turned up in a science experiment. Move around to the side and the shape backs that up. It is a full dual cab with a proper open tray behind it, standing tall on chunky alloy wheels, sitting at a real working height instead of crouching low to chase efficiency. The proportions are honest. It looks like it can carry a load, because carrying loads is the entire point, and sitting under that familiar body is the single decision that shapes everything else about this truck. Here it is. Toyota did not engineer a clean sheet electric skateboard for the HiLux. The BEV rides on the same ladder frame chassis as the diesel and the new hybrid, the same bones that have carried this truck for decades. A battery of just under 60 kilowatt-hours is slotted into that frame, and there is one electric motor on each axle, which gives it full-time all-wheel drive. Together they produce around 190 horsepower and 345 pound-feet of torque, delivered instantly and in near silence the moment your foot moves. That shared frame is the whole story, because it explains both what this truck can do and what it simply cannot. Reusing the existing HiLux architecture let Toyota bring an electric ute to market quickly, cheaply, and instantly familiar to every fleet already running diesels. But a chassis originally designed around an engine and a fuel tank only has so much space for batteries. So the pack stays modest, and a modest pack means a modest range. This is the number that decides everything for most buyers. The HiLux BEV is rated at roughly 150 miles on a full charge. Load it up, hitch a trailer, or sit it on a highway at speed, and you should honestly expect a good deal less than that. For a family EV, a figure like that would be a deal breaker. For a work truck, it is not a footnote, it is the entire conversation. And here is the twist. That is not a number Toyota is hiding from, it is a number Toyota deliberately designed around. Because think about who actually buys a HiLux to work. An enormous share of them are fleets, councils, power and water crews, mine sites, delivery runs, trades that drive a fixed loop every single day and return to the very same yard every single night. For that operator, 150 miles is not a limit, it is a Tuesday. They charge at base overnight on cheap power and never touch a public charger in their lives. This truck was engineered for that customer, with something close to surgical precision. If that is you, stay with me, because the rest of the numbers are about to click into place. If it is not you, this might be the clearest example yet of an electric vehicle that knows exactly what it is not. If you want the honest version of every new car like this one, and not the usual launch hype, subscribe, because we publish one of these every single day. Now, range is only half of the compromise. The other half is what it can drag behind it. Toyota rates the HiLux BEV to tow around 3,500 pounds. Set on its own, that sounds perfectly reasonable for a ute. Then you remember the diesel HiLux is rated to pull more than double that, and the picture sharpens fast. Payload lands near 1,500 pounds, which is genuinely useful, but again shy of the hardest working diesel models. The reason is pure physics. Batteries are heavy, and every kilogram of battery is a kilogram you no longer get to spend on the trailer or the tray. Off the sealed road, that same weight cuts both ways. All that instant torque makes the BEV genuinely easy to place at crawling speed, feeding power to each wheel the very instant it is asked for. And the heavy battery, sitting low in the frame, drops the center of gravity in a way a tall diesel ute can only envy. But venture far from a Charger, deep into the sort of country a Hilux is famous for conquering, and that short range starts breathing down your neck. This is a truck that is happiest, never straying too far from home base. Charging is where the electric ute quietly wins some of it back. Plug the HiLux BEV into a DC fast charger, and it will accept up to 150 kilowatts. That is enough to go from 10 to 80% in about 30 minutes, give or take a coffee. Back at the depot on a 3-phase AC supply, a full top-up takes around 6.5 hours, which is another way of saying overnight, which is another way of saying completely invisible to a fleet that parks up at 5 and rolls out again at 7. Inside, the SR5 follows exactly the same instinct as the outside. It is a Hilux that has been quietly modernized, not reinvented. As the higher grade in the range, it brings the bigger central touchscreen, wireless phone mirroring, dual-zone climate, and the full suite of driver aids Toyota now fits across the line. The driving position is high and commanding. The controls deliberately big and simple, the kind you can work in gloves. Nothing about being in there asks you to relearn how to drive a truck. That, really, is this whole vehicle summed up in one line. It asks a business to change what powers the truck, and almost nothing else about how they use it. So who does the HiLux BEV actually have to beat? And this is where its narrow, careful focus turns into its sharpest weapon. The obvious opponent is the handful of other affordable electric utes now reaching the market. Against those, the Toyota badge and its enormous dealer and service network do a lot of quiet heavy lifting for a fleet that lives or dies on uptime. The bigger threat comes from plug-in hybrids. Trucks like the BYD Shark 6, the Ford Ranger plug-in, and the GWM Cannon Alpha do something clever. They offer electric running for the daily grind and a petrol engine for the big tow and the long haul, with no range anxiety at all. On paper, that flexibility looks like it should win the argument outright. But this is where the pricing quietly makes its case. The HiLux BEV opens at just under $75,000 for the SR cab chassis. The SR5 pickup in front of you lands at $82,990 before on-road costs. That is serious money, and yes, it is more than an equivalent diesel Hilux. Yet it slips under several of those plug-in hybrid rivals. It unlocks fleet and tax advantages a combustion truck simply cannot touch. And it wipes fuel and most scheduled servicing off the running cost sheet almost entirely. And there is one more line on that spreadsheet Toyota barely has to argue. Every Hilux, this one included, arrives with a 5-year unlimited kilometer warranty and a resale reputation that fleets have banked on for generations. For a business running the sums over 100,000 kilometers of hard work, all of that quietly rewrites the answer. So let me put the whole thing together honestly, because this is a truck that is very easy to judge wrongly. Measure the HiLux BEV the way you would measure any other Hilux, by how far it travels and how much it hauls. And it reads like a step backwards. The range is short, the towing is roughly halved. Anyone doing long remote off-grid runs should not buy this one. And to Toyota's credit, it is not pretending otherwise. It deliberately kept the diesel on sale and added a hybrid, precisely so that nobody is ever forced into the electric version against their needs. But measure it as the thing it actually is, a purpose-built electric work truck for predictable, high-mileage, depot-based fleets. And the whole vehicle snaps into focus. Suddenly it stops looking like a compromise and starts looking like a scalpel. It does one job. It does that job quietly, cheaply, and without a shred of drama. And it does it wearing the one badge that fleet managers around the world trust to still be turning a wheel a decade from now. That is the quiet revolution I promised you at the start. Toyota did not try to reinvent the Ute, and it did not try to outmuscle an electric pickup from Silicon Valley. It took the most trusted workhorse on the planet, kept every single thing that earned that trust, and changed only what lives beneath the floor. Whether you see that as remarkable discipline or a missed shot at being braver depends entirely on one thing: whether you are the fleet manager this truck was so carefully built for, or the weekend adventurer it was never, ever meant to carry. If you want to see the version Toyota expects most buyers to actually choose, the new HiLux Hybrid is the one to watch next.